Hey friends, it is September 18th. Sorry, that's a little scratchy. 2022. I am in Mexico. My flight keeps getting canceled, and there's nobody here but the local people who were so nice to me. I just went on a long walk. I saw so many cool birds, and yeah. So, knowing that I probably won't get to the era of the Magus channels until October, I'm going to record this video. If you're watching it in the future, forgive me for all the updates that are only relevant to this now in time and space. So, next week, assuming I can get somewhere and back to my dog, hold on. We're going to meet on Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday as usual and talk about how we together, sovereignly together, alone together, want to finish out the era of the Magus series. And I got to feeling into a little bit of what's missing, if anything, and because it's all there. It was always already there. And when I feel into it, there's just a little confusion because of going beyond the mind can be a maddening experience. Grace is when things fall apart. Grace is when things fall apart, and as the mind moves from one space, holding time and space together, that's what the mind is really doing, is holding time and space together. When it moves from that space to the space of a mind that can comprehend the infinite, things get a little wacky because your grip on reality loosens. The human has a severe grip on reality and thinks things matter, like their flight getting canceled. I still have my human. So I want to talk about the infinite mystery of the I Am and divine will. And I'm going to tell a story because giving charts and graphs is not going to help us with our mind loosening its grip on time and space. I'm trying to be here because I'm not really here. Haven't been. So let's say once upon a time, there was a river, and that river was God. And then God spoke, and it created a second river, energy, right? Once upon a time, there was one river, and that river was consciousness, or God. And then the river spoke, it sang, and it created another river, energy. So then there were two rivers. And one river is consciousness, and the other is energy. And that second river, energy, it began to think it was God. It started to have so many experiences, in this case, on Earth, right? We have all of creation, and Earth is just one part of all of creation. And that second river had so many experiences, energy had so many experiences in the second river of energy that it began to think that energy was consciousness, and that consciousness was there to serve it. The second river was supposed to serve it, rather than energy, the river, serving consciousness. And the way energy serves consciousness is for God to experience itself as God, not as a human, but as God. So the soul serves as kind of a bank of experience in the river of energy. The soul's had many, many experiences, and the wisdom from those experiences collect in the energy bank that is the second river. And because this wisdom is so wise, it begins to think that it's in charge of things. I have all of this wisdom. Look at how much wisdom I have gained in the second river. So, when it comes to will or flow and will are the same thing. There's the divine flow, the divine will, which is river number one, consciousness, and there's human free will or flow, human flow, which is the second river. When the I identity is in the second river, energy can't serve it because energy can't serve energy. And this is an infinite mystery, and it's a little convoluted for the mind. But I'm going to make it a little bit of a story here. So when the human becomes aware of divine will, there's something greater than me, and that what's greater than me is God or consciousness. There's an idea for some people, for some Shambra especially, that isness, the first river, is neutral, it doesn't care. And that's quite true. If you, the human, say, I'm in charge, if the energy says, I'm in charge, then consciousness goes, okay, I'll let you handle it. Consciousness has nothing but love and compassion and zero judgment for the energetic experience. So if the human says, hey, consciousness, I got this, I'm going to make my own decisions, and the choice lies with me, the first river of consciousness says, okay, that's your flow. And that's okay with me, because we have infinite time and infinite space to have the experience. So when you're in the lifetime that you're in, you realize that the human's not really in control. And you allow energy. What's happening is you're trying to allow consciousness to serve you. And it can. We'll talk about it. So the human says, I need my body to stop being in pain. A lot of you have created pain to stay on Earth. And it's actually energy serving you. The pain is actually energy serving you. I'll get to that. But it's the human choosing this experience says, I need to have my human needs met. And they're expecting consciousness to meet those needs. But consciousness does not serve energy. You have crowned the wrong king. Right? You can state your needs to your consciousness and then allow. But I want to go deeper than that. Because we've all heard that a million times, yet some of you still have things that are distracting you, but they're actually really serving you. Prior to understanding how divine will and human free will work, never having prayed, when I was about 25, I had health issues. in my female organs, really bad health issues. And I had money issues. I was really broke. I was on unemployment. And one night I went to sleep and I prayed to God. I prayed to her. And I said, I can't do this alone, God. I've tried to do this alone. I really need a partner. And I mean, I said it with full force, full desperation. I said, I cannot do this on my own, and I need a partner to help me pay the bills and, take care of myself, and I need someone who can take care of me. And about 6 to 8 months later, I met my ex-husband. He showed up and he took care of me, paid the bills, and made sure I was fed and clothed, and we got married, and my dad transferred my bills to my husband. They had a meeting without me at dinner, and my dad said, here's the bills I pay for Lauren. She has a tough time making ends meet. And they had a business meeting about me, and my husband began to pay my car insurance and my cell phone bill. And I moved into his house, so I didn't have to pay rent anywhere, because that was kind of a problem. Things weren't as expensive then as they are now. It's really expensive to be on Earth. And so consciousness came and supported my human needs because it loves me. God loves me. I am the creation of God. Lauren is the creation, not the creator. Lauren will never be the creator. So my prayers were answered. And I was in a karmic marriage that was very unhealthy, very codependent, inhibiting me from actually experiencing who I truly am, which is Sarah. And eventually I got out, but it wasn't easy. If anyone's tried to get out of a karmic relationship, it's quite difficult. So what I see some people doing is that I just need my body pain to go away. I just need some money, right? But it's not going to actually come in that way, because God knows you know too much, right? So once you realize that consciousness exists, it's not going to say, okay, this energetic representation of me, my creation, is not just having another lifetime to have experience. Because that's what my consciousness was giving me. When I prayed, it said, okay, I'm going to give you what you want, but it's not going to turn out the way you want. And that's a good thing, because what you truly want is to know yourself as God also. So if fast forward, when I know that consciousness exists and that I am that, but it hasn't quite come together yet, I have in the past prayed again for a partner. This time I don't need money. I don't have health problems, not anything major like I did then. And my prayers were not answered to have a conscious partner. I do have one, they're just not in physical form. So if you're not having the money come in, or your pain go away, or the relationship you want, or getting the job that you're trying to apply for and it just won't work out, whatever it is, trying to buy a house like I did in Oregon after my realization, it's just like, that's not what we're doing. right? So there gets to be this point where things are flowing in a different direction. And river number one, God consciousness, and river number two, soul energy, are on a trajectory to merge and create a third river or ocean or whatever, it doesn't matter. So those unanswered prayers are energy serving consciousness. It pains me to give this example because energy serving me is when I meet the darkest depths of myself. I meet the ugliest parts and pieces, and I'm able to sit and accept them. Acceptance is passion for me. So energy serving me is when something in a human world apparently horrible happens. One example, I ripped my eyebrow off. I severed it this way, and this way, and my eyebrow was hanging down because it cut the muscle, and it was just an open wound. And I drove myself to the hospital with Ollie in the back, and it's like, you don't think you're vain until your face is mutilated. And I got to the hospital, and they thought that someone had beat me or whatever, and I'm like, no. But that experience, when I finally got back from the hospital and I got into the hotel room and had Ollie with me, I had a mystical experience where all of the angels and all of creation and all incarnations, all of them showed up, and I came back into my body. Consciousness incarnate. And they did do a good job of sewing my eyebrow back on. It's taken a little bit to heal, but they did a good job. That's energy serving me, consciousness, not my human, But when the Patreon began to kind of fall apart and we went from X amount of dollars to half that, right? So half the income is coming in. In the last month, I've got 2 checks in the mail for the amount of money that would have been there for Patreon. But I hate to tell you this because it's like I don't open up a check and be like, look, here's proof that energy serves me, and I never post it on social media or whatever else. Because my eyes are on God, my eyes are on the kingdom. Every Rumi poem that's a love poem, he's talking to God in the eyes of the beloved. He's writing love poems to God, not to another person, but to God. Every Rumi poem is about energy and consciousness coming together in the eyes of the beloved. He's passionate, drunk in love with God, and I am too. So when a check shows up, you go, oh yeah, whatever, put it in the account. It's like when you are in the flow and you're doing your divine will, all that stuff gets taken care of, but you won't even care. I think of Yeshua. He used to go into the desert with no food and no water. And if he got, wherever he was, it didn't matter. Whatever was going on, he never had money saved away. Whatever was going on didn't matter because he was staring out inward and outward in all directions in the eyes of the beloved, right? So there gets to be a mental debate, and it comes up, and it's like a wave that rises up, that it goes back down. Should I stay or should I go? Should I stay on Earth or should I not stay on Earth? We saw it last month. It's normal and natural, and it's a huge gift for you to be able to talk about it on our calls. If I've given you anything in my time here, it's a space to be able to talk and with your peers in consciousness and be able to relate to one another in vulnerability and openness and humility. So Tobias once said you'll want to have both human free will and divine will, but you can't. You know too much, is what I'm trying to tell you. So there's a divine blueprint that is energy and consciousness coming together. And in that divine blueprint, you're not trying to get consciousness to serve you. As soon as you try to do something for the human, consciousness backs off. Oh, they're trying to work it out themselves. I'm going to let them have that experience because I love them so much. A creator always allows their creation sovereignty. But if the human says, you know what? I'm not in charge. Adamus has called this let go and let God. You can't do that half and half. Prior to my realization, I realized I was trying to do both, human free will and divine will. It was like I was consulting logic. I was consulting this. I was consulting that. And then my human would make the decision. As long as my human was still in control, I'd be okay. But when divine will comes in, that divine blueprint, which is you and all of creation and all lifetimes and unlifetimes and all your energy, that's when the human truly becomes the way some of you connect to your soul or your I am. The human is here and you're trying to connect to your soul or your I am. We'll do it together, but you experience yourself as the human holding the hand of the divine. What ancient integrations for the free energy body today was a flip in perception, which is the greatest flip in perception in all of creation. And it puts you beyond perception and into awareness, is that you experience yourself as God holding the hand of the human. So Lauren's still here, but I experience her kind of over here, and I'm aware of what she's doing. Sometimes she's throwing a fit, especially about the plane being canceled, and sometimes she's just looking around going, what does it all mean? And what am I doing here? But Lauren is something I experience over here. I'm not the human trying to reach out for something. So those in the debate of when it's time to go and when it's not, and staying and not staying. If your human tells your consciousness, I'm done, I'm leaving, the consciousness will say, okay, right? And it could be, you could experience that as a soul thing. My soul says it's time to go, and and consciousness will say, okay, right? But if you allow your full luminosity and realization, it's not a debate of when you're going to go, but you find that in your divine blueprint, and you realize it's up to God. But that's not a defined thing. It's only up to God if you hand your sovereignty back over to the Creator. Right? Because whatever the human chooses, because it was created with love and compassion by God, God also, let me say this a different way. God also created you, the human, the designated ascendee, and allowed its sovereignty, right? And if that designated ascendee stays in the designated ascendee form, it will choose whether to stay or go. But I'm telling you, there's another option, or whatever your debate is. Leave this marriage, don't leave this marriage, stay on earth, don't stay on earth, the either ors, right? But if that human says, that designated ascendee says, you know what? I've had my fun, I've been in charge, but now I see God, and I know that it's me, and so I'm going to put all that into, it chooses to give the sovereignty back to God. And then, and only then, are you able to access your divine blueprint, which we talk about in the 5 to Further, we talk about it in the Light Body sessions, we talk about it in the new book, right? So someone told me, but you get to choose, you do, and that's true. The human always gets to choose, right? But if you're gonna go with the divine will and have the two rivers merge into the third river, right? First circle of creation, second circle, and third, right? You're not going back to the beginning. You're creating anew. So then you're in your divine blueprint, having said, you know what, this designated ascendee, most people aren't going to get beyond that in this life. Let's be honest. They're the designated ascendee. They're going to go to the Ascended Masters Club, you know, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. They won't have to have another experience on Earth. And they're pretty sick of it, right? But prior to coming into this lifetime, I jumped into the ocean of the divine, the pool of the divine, the river of the divine, knowing that I might lose my identity. This was not in a physical form. I didn't have this human brain and holding everything in and gripping onto things. I jumped into the ocean, and I realized that I didn't lose my individuality. I jumped into oneness, and I realized I didn't lose my individuality because I chose to experience my divine individuality. And so that permeated through my life for me to be able to really understand divine will. So divine will is not the way the human mind wants to say, where the human does nothing. It just sits there and it waits, and God will take care of everything. Or I'll just demand a bunch of stuff from God and have it come in. It's a lot more fluid than that, and it's beyond duality. So the mind is not able to maybe comprehend it fully right now. And it is an infinite mystery. Who am I? And the question, why am I here, is not just about this lifetime and this earth. It's why am I here in all of creation? So I got to thinking about the compass. And if you hold a compass in your hand, the arrow always points north, right? It'll spin around in circles, but it will always find north. And I think about my incarnation as the North Star, leading the Magi to the birth of Yeshua. And because we're not just human incarnations, we're all sorts of incarnations. And there's only one place for the rivers to merge, and that's your true north. And that can happen in time and space or beyond it. I mean, it's going to happen beyond time and space. However, you may have a representation in time and space as well when that happens. And that's kind of what I came here to experience, right? You know, I had done it outside of time and space, and I was like, I'm going to do this as a human and have the full human experience so I can leave these energetic imprints on Earth, which I love so, so very much. So the human is an active participant in all of this, understanding that it's not God. And the designated ascendee is understanding that it's not God. And the designated ascendee can continue to be in charge, sure, and still have realization and in the lifetime cycle. Or it can say, you know what, I'm going to stay for the fireworks show of energy and consciousness coming together and lay the groundwork for this new human species. It's able to move, your light body will allow you to move, or your free energy body will allow you to move fluidly throughout all of creation. So I remember I went to the Pronost event in 2017, and that's when Adamus said the new earth and the old earth are not coming together. And then he talked about the creation of Theos and other new earths. And at the end he said, if I were incarnated on earth right now, that's where I would go, right? Because it hasn't been available to the ascended masters. This is a new opening on earth to be able to incarnate in this lifetime, and then there's a gateway that opens up that allows you to go to the new earths. Next year, the gateway's opening up more to be able to explore all of creation, right? So some of you are staying for that because you don't have to create another lifetime to find the gate to all of creation. I know it's hard for the mind. So one of the reasons Moria incarnated in the year 2052 and created the avatar in the metaverse, sure, he was like, while I'm on my way, let me do service. So he created a passageway for realization in the metaverse, but he also created a lifetime that allowed him to access this door to go into the new earths and everything else. And Adamus was so clear in that Chronos channel that he didn't have access necessarily to those places because it's something new, right? So in 2023, which is why Katumi was always saying, talk to the 2023 version of yourself, that doorway will open for you to choose where you want to go next while in human form, something that hasn't been done before. So you get to choose who's choosing, is what I'm trying to tell you. Is your human will choosing or your divine will choosing what's next for you? And whatever you choose, God consciousness will respect it because you're its creation and it loves you unconditionally. So you get to choose which river you choose. You choose river number 2, human free will, you keep going on that track. If you choose the energy to respond to consciousness and the rivers merge, that takes you in another direction. Whichever direction you choose is your choice, right? So some people think divine will means you have no choice, but it means showing up and choosing divine will every day. That's how energy responds to consciousness. So the Magi, you, create this vehicle to experience all of creation. One facet of the Magi is the designated ascendee lifetime in this earth reality. And you get to hold that representation for as long as you want. Being hyper-focused on this reality is easy with the mind set up to grasp onto time and space, especially if you're in pain. I haven't been able to sleep lately, and I'm noticing how my human is dealing with that. I haven't been able to sleep. I don't even think I sleep. But I'm not 100% in this physical reality anyway. So this is the rhythm of further, and by further I mean further into the depths of your beingness, into the widening rings of being, widening rings of awareness of who you are.